Dr. Irina Patel held her breath as the observation dome's viewport gradually revealed the swirling hues of Zethra's upper atmosphere. Bands of teal and lavender gases rippled across the horizon of the world-valley aurora. This was the moment humanity had waited centuries to experience, the first direct encounter with an intelligent extraterrestrial civilization. Irina's pulse raced as the Unity-class starship Worms settled into a stable orbit around the uncharted world. Behind her, a half-dozen fellow scientists and engineers moved through the narrow corridor with quiet focus, calibrating instruments, checking environmental seals, and readying the landing shuttle. Atmospheric readings are nominal, announced Lieutenant Leon Vega, the ship's navigation specialist. His deep voice resonated through the channel. Gravity's 0.9 for grams. Breathable gases present at trace levels. We're good to open the bay doors in 5. Irina nodded, barely containing her excitement. She tapped her tablet to record the final pre-entry data. Orbital insertion stable. Lander systems green. Comlink channel 7 active. She glanced at Dr. Elena Hassan, the Worms' lead xenobiologist, who offered an encouraging smile. Even Elena's composed demeanor could not quite mask the eagerness in her eyes. Remember, Elena murmured, maintain protocol. This is diplomatic first contact, not a field expedition. Irina returned her attention to the viewport as the shuttle detached from the ship's belly with a gentle thump. She strapped into the pilot's seat beside Commander Mark Sullivan, the mission's captain, a veteran of interplanetary probes, but now facing the uncharted thrill of true alien life. Touchdown in 5, Sullivan said, voice steady. All stations, report status. Biolab systems online. Dr. Hassan reported from the rear station. Environmental suit integrity 100%. Long-range scanners locked on local structures. Added Vega from the nave console. Multiple artificial constructs detected. Looks like a plaza. Maybe a ceremonial site. Irina swallowed hard. She had studied every available image from the unmanned probes that had flown by, but nothing prepared her for the vivid reality. Unfolding inches from the glass, what kind of beings would greet them? Peaceful scholars, curious explorers, or cold strategists? The landing legs crunched onto the stone-paved surface with a final shudder. The shuttle's ramp descended, revealing an expansive courtyard ringed by towering, pillar-like monoliths. Each monolith bore intricate carvings of spiraling glyphs and stylized figures, stories of gods and heroes, possibly, but no human interpreter could yet decipher their meaning. A hush fell over the Worms' crew as they filed out. The air tasted faintly metallic, yet none of their biosensors detected toxic compounds. Still, the planet's gentle breeze did little to calm Irina's jittery heart. Stay close, Captain Sullivan instructed. Focus on nonverbal cues first. We don't want to appear threatening. At that moment, the courtyard's central plaza shimmered with a soft blue glow. From the haze emerged 4 figures to tall, to shorter, gliding forward without a sound. Their forms were slender, elongated at the limbs, built of a subtle iridescent material that caught the morning sunlight. Their single, large, almond-shaped ocular organ dominated each head, giving them an almost crystalline appearance. Around their torsos were delicate filaments that pulsed gently, as though breathing in sync with the quiet hum of their technology. 4. A heartbeat. Neither side moved. Then one of the taller figures stepped forward, extending a 3-fingered limb in a gesture that mirrored the human notion of a greeting. Irina's team froze, then mimicked the motion. Gloved hand raised, fingers slightly splayed. The alien's ocular organ seemed to flicker, as if translating human intent. Channel 7. Open universal translator sequence, Captain Sullivan whispered. Let's see what they have to say. A tonal vibration emerged from the visitor's complex, melodic, with harmonic undertones that resonated through the shuttle's comm systems. The translator algorithm kicked in, spitting out near-instant text on the captain's display. Welcome, travelers of the blue planet. We are the Zethrians, You approach in peace. A collective exhale swept through the humans. Dr. Elena Hassan pressed a small device into the outstretched branch-like limb of the lead Zethrian. It glowed, projected a swirling hologram of Earth's emblem. The alien being regarded it with apparent curiosity, its crystalline iris narrowing and widening. Irina stepped forward next, clutching a compact container holding a symbolic gift, a small sprout of an engineered oak, Earth's enduring symbol of life and resilience. She extended it gently. The Zethrian paused, then accepted it into its filaments. The creature's pulsing glow quickened, and it lifted its other limb in a tentative patting motion over the oak. Through the translator, a soft phrase appeared: "Your gift is life's promise. Ours we shall share." As this astonishing moment settled, Irina allowed herself a small, thrilled smile. The centuries of isolation, of wondering if humans were alone in the cosmos, were over. They had been welcomed, yet even as diplomatic pleasantries unfolded, exchanges of mathematically derived greetings, shared visual symbols, and the first tentative steps toward mutual understanding, Irina detected something in the Zethrians' demeanor. A subtle tension underlay their civility, a ripple of wariness that belied deep concern. Their towering monoliths, though awe-inspiring, felt almost defensive shields erected in silent warning. Irina mentally noted this as she guided her team back toward the shuttle. Their equipment would collect environmental samples. Linguists would start decrypting the glyphs. All part of the grand plan to cement an alliance that could reshape galactic history. But as the stars blinked overhead and the sun dipped behind Zethra's mottled clouds, a faint pulse of energy flickered across their scanners, an enigmatic signal broadcasting from a remote quadrant of the planet. Its pattern was deliberate yet unsettling, a rapid sequence followed by prolonged silence, repeated every 90 seconds. The Verms's systems flagged it purple high priority, unknown. Captain Sullivan frowned. "Take a look, Vega. What are we dealing with?" Leon's eyes darted between readouts. "It's definitely artificial. It's not a greeting beacon, more like a warning." "But warning of what?" Irina asked, leaning closer to the display. The signal bore no linguistic markers, just the rhythmic pulsing of encoded data. Leon tapped furiously. "I can't decrypt it in real time, but I can trace its origin. It's coming from the southern hemisphere, an uncharted continent full of mountain ranges. No known Zethrian settlement there." A cold knot formed in Irina's stomach. The Zethrians had welcomed them openly, even graciously. Why signal a warning? Were they hiding something? And if so, what lurking danger compelled them to mask it beneath layers of hospitality? Captain Sullivan issued orders with methodical calm. "Dr. Hassan, collect your botanical samples and return to the lander. Irina, prepare a sub-team to investigate this signal. We go at dawn." And communicate with the Zethrian negotiators. Express gratitude. But we need clarification on that broadcast. As the Verm's crew dispersed under the pale alien sky, Irina felt the thrill of history shift into the tension of the unknown. A simple greeting had blossomed into the next chapter, one that could lead to unprecedented alliance or unforeseen peril. And somewhere beyond these gleaming pillars, deep in Zethra's hidden wilds, something waited, something the Zethrians themselves feared enough to disguise it beneath the veneer of friendship. Irina secured her helmet, watching her reflection in the blue-tinted glass, human eyes shining with equal parts awe and apprehension. She would uncover the signal's meaning, because in the vastness of the galaxy, underestimated hunters are rarely those who seem innocuous. Humanity had arrived, and already, the planet Zethra was about to learn just how deadly our curiosity and our courage could be. The twin suns of Zethra rose in the sky like silent sentinels, their pale light revealing the jagged contours of the mountains to the south. A slight chill still clung to the highlands, and when Lieutenant Leon Vega commanded full thrust, the Verms's shuttle shuddered against the deceptively thin atmosphere. Dr. Irina Patel sat strapped into the co-pilot seat, her gloves white-knuckled, around the armrests as the uncharted landscape rushed toward them. Below stretched a labyrinth of rocky valleys, dense groves of obsidian-black trees, and the distant flicker of crystalline lakes' waters, so pure they shimmered like liquid light, approaching. Signal origin, Leon reported, voice hushed with concentration. His displays overlaid terrain scans with the rhythmic blip of the mysterious warning broadcast. Coordinates locked. We touched down in 90 seconds. Behind them, Dr. Elena Hassan's biolab modules pinged, confirming the data collected from the central plaza had been automatically uplinked to the VERMs. But in this moment, every person aboard the shuttle braced for what lay ahead and for the possibility that they might uncover the very danger the Zethrians had cryptically hinted at. Steady and thrusters off, Captain Mark Sullivan commanded from the pilot's seat. The shuttle's landing struts extended, scraping against a ledge of jagged basalt. A plume of dust and iridescent spores drifted upward before settling. Back into silent stillness, the ramp descended, and the 5-person exploration team Irina, Elena, Leon, Captain Sullivan, and Medical Officer Anya Cho stepped onto Zethra's stony ground. Their boots crunched over fragmented rock that glittered underfoot as though embedded with tiny gems. The wind whispered among the twisted trunks of towering blackwood trees, carrying a scent of ozone and something faintly floral. Biometric readings stable, Anya announced, scanning the ambient air with her handheld spectrometer. No known toxins, but the flora's pollen count is high. Recommend heightened filtration for sensitive members. Irina nodded, adjusting her helmet's air filters. We'll move quickly. Keep comms open with VERMs. This signal, whatever it is, must be significant. They headed toward a narrow valley where their sensors registered the source. A squat stone structure, half buried beneath centuries of silt. Its entrance marked by carved glyphs that matched the more elaborate scripts they had seen back at the main plaza. Each glyph glowed faintly with an inner phosphorescence, rocks humming under the team's scanners as though holding latent power. Looks like some form of ancient outpost, Elena speculated, eyes alight behind her visor. Perhaps a warning, station meant to deter intruders. That would explain the broadcast, said Leon, crouching to examine the glyphs. It's an encoded message more complex than the greeting codes used by the Zethrian Central Archives, but curiously, it's repeating the same distressed sequence over and over. Captain Sullivan held up a hand. No assumptions. We document, record, then decide entry protocol. To buy to Irina, you and I go in first. Elena, Leon, stay here and monitor. Understood, Irina replied. She and Sullivan edged forward, rifles slung but not raised, their boots echoing. As they entered the chamber beyond the entrance, inside, the air was unnaturally cool, carrying a metallic sting that set their teeth on edge. The chamber's walls were etched with fresco-like panels, depicting the early history of Zethra, colossal winged beasts circling the planet, humanoid figures invoking arcane rituals, and an ominous scene of smaller creatures striking down the winged giants with energy beams. Irina's pulse quickened as she realized these panels might hold the secret of what the Zethrians feared. Look at this, she whispered, kneeling beside a pictograph of a humanoid holding aloft a pulsating crystal. It's like they worshipped a power source. Sullivan studied the image, his brow furrowing. These creatures, are they native, or were they engineered? She traced a jagged crack in the stone. The Zethrians' own myth spoke of hunters of wind and fire. Could that be what we saw in the tales? Something they created and then lost control of. A shudder ran down Sullivan's spine. If this place was meant to warn future generations, their threat must have been immense. Just then, the communication device strapped to Irina's suit crackled. Irina, Elena here got to show you something up top. They exchanged a glance. Copy that. Let's regroup, Sullivan said, pausing only to snap a photograph of the central fresco before they exited the chamber. Back at the entrance, Elena crouched beside Leon's portable scanner, her face illuminated by green data streams. We've traced the warning beacon's core to an energy node beneath this structure. It's still active, feeding off geothermal vents. But I'm detecting a second signal, a low-frequency pulse emanating from deeper underground. Leon tapped a holographic interface. Subterranean tunnels lead farther south. Signal strength spikes the deeper you go. Irina frowned. So the Central Plaza signal was a general warning. This one is more specific. Something down there triggered an alarm. Anya joined them, handing out water canisters. Any sign of life down there? Or just machinery? No biometrics yet, Leon answered. But the energy readings are off the charts, higher than anything we've seen back at the Zethrian city. Captain Sullivan studied the valley around them. The blackwood trees shivered even in the slight breeze. We need a plan. If this thing is dangerous enough to warrant hidden alarms, then walking in blind is suicide. But we have explorer's blood in us. What do you propose, Aelina? She tapped her chin thoughtfully. If we can map the tunnels quickly, send a small drone pack with thermal and radiation sensors, we might identify the threat without exposing ourselves. Sullivan nodded. Do it. Anya, Leon, pick a drone model. Irina and I will secure entry points. Full COM encryption, no spontaneous surprises. As the team worked, Irina felt her heart hammering in her chest. She dreamed of alien artifacts and undiscovered wonders, but the thrill was tempered by a profound unease. What unspeakable power had once ravaged Zethra's south, and could it still lie dormant, waiting for an unwitting trigger? By midday, the drone's 6 spider-like scouts were primed and fitted with narrow-spectrum cameras. Before release, Aelina uploaded a predictive scan model based on the glyph sequences, possible chamber locations, tunnel forks, and energy hotspots. Finally, with a collective nod, the team activated the drones. They scuttled into the darkened entrance, their tiny servos clicking like insect legs. Moments later, the main display flickered to life, a dimly lit tunnel network honeycombed beneath the stone structure. Monitors revealed crystalline veins pulsating with blue-white light along the walls, feeding into a larger chamber at the system center. Something massive and identifiable lay beyond a randomly pulsing glow, its silhouette only occasionally discernible as the drones passed overhead. See that? Aelina pointed at a gauge indicating rising radiation levels. Thermal signatures off the charts, too well beyond natural geothermal heat. It's artificial. Leon's eyes widened. Could be a reactor core. If this thing went critical, it would explain why the Zethrians sealed it off. Anya's voice was taut. Radiation enough to kill us in minutes. We need to shut it down remotely, if possible. The drones advanced into the main chamber. The feeding conduits converged on a central prism of concentrated energy, an enormous crystalline structure, thousands of feet tall, crackling with arcs of light. It hummed at a frequency that rattled their packs even from the surface. Suddenly, a new pulse flooded their systems, an alarm sequence far more acute than before. The prism's glow deepened, and the drone's signals went static. No, Aelina shouted, swiping at her console. Static hissed. We're losing them. Captain Sullivan grabbed her arm. We go in, now. Irina hesitated only a moment. They'd come to investigate, to understand. And now they had to face the unknown. She switched her suit to maximum atmospheric shield, activated her weapon's inertial dampeners, and together the two senior officers crouched into the shadows of the entrance. Every step echoed in the yawning tunnel. The crystalline veins cast fractured rainbows on the rough walls as the ambient hum grew into a deafening roar. Irina's visor readouts pounded warnings, radiation spike imminent. She swallowed, arm brushing Sullivan's as they descended a shallow ramp into the heart of the chamber. There it stood, the prism towering, sentient, alive with unfathomable power. Tendrils of pure energy arched from its facets, lancing outward like the claws of some great metal beast. The ground beneath it pulsated in time with its rhythm, as though the entire planet's mantle had been engineered to sustain this monstrous core. Irina raised her voice through the comlink. "Verms, we're in position. Energy levels at critical. We need a manual override any Z3 and access code." A crackling reply came through Eleanor's voice. "Nothing in the archives. Matches. The glyph spoke of keepers, but no practical sequence. You'll have to shut the node off at the source, disable the conduits." Sullivan studied the nearest conduit, a glowing fissure in the wall, feeding strands of energy into the base. "Cover me," he said, pulling a tool from his belt, a cutting laser designed to sever alien supralloys. He knelt at the fissure's mouth. Irina steadied his shoulder. "Be careful." The laser's beam bit into the crystalline vein, sparks flying in chromatic showers. For a moment, nothing happened, then the prism shuddered, and a shockwave of force erupted. Irina hit the floor as raw energy hurled across the chamber, singeing the end of her suit's elbow. The prism's humming grew louder, furious, as if waking from a slumber to roar in rage. "Keep that grid." Taste of ozone filled Dr. Irina Patel's mouth as she hauled herself to her feet, nuts and bolts of jagged crystal shards crunching beneath her boots. Her visor's internal readouts blinked red. Radiation levels had spiked into lethal territory, and structural integrity warnings cascaded across her heads-up display. Captain Mark Sullivan lay a scant meter away, struggling to rise, one hand pressed against a burning welt on his side where the prism's shockwave had struck them. Behind them, the great crystalline reactor thundered, pulsating so violently that the chamber walls groaned and the tunnel network quaked. "We can't," Sullivan rasped, pushing himself upright. "We can't keep doing half measures. Every conduit we sever, it ramps up power to compensate." Irina spotted the nearest cluster of conduits, hundreds of luminescent veins sprawling from the reactor. Ground tremor rattled Dr. Irina Patel's teeth as she scrambled to her feet. In the reactor chamber's dim half-light, dust rained from the vaulted ceiling overhead, and the air was thick with streaks of bluish radiation, so intense her suit's biomonitor flashed urgent red warnings. Captain Mark Sullivan lay slumped against a conduit cluster, breathing heavily, but conscious. Behind him, the crystalline prism pulsed with a deepening glow, thrumming a low, malevolent cadence that seemed to echo through every molecule of stone and metal in the cavern. "We need an exit plan now," Sullivan gasped, pressing a hand to a bleeding abrasion on his arm. His comlink crackled with Eleanor Hassan's voice. "Verms is pre-positioning rescue drones at the entrance, but we have 90 seconds before structural collapse. You have to decide: shut it down or evacuate." Irina's mind raced. The reactor's power was already destabilized. Any further damage might trigger a planetary core reaction, risking an explosion that could devastate Z3 itself. Yet leaving it active, or worse, leaving the prism intact, meant allowing a weapon of unimaginable scale to fall into the wrong hands. The Z3ans had hidden this chamber for centuries to protect their world. Now it was up to her and Sullivan. She knelt beside her captain, toggling her visor's auxiliary interface. "Commander, the only fail-safe I see is a full-scale conduit overload. Short every energy vein simultaneously. Trigger a controlled meltdown that permanently disables the core. But it will cause a massive energy discharge enough to breach this chamber's walls and cut off all tunnels. We can buy time, but the reactor will go dead." Sullivan winced as he tried to stand. "If we're trapped in the blast radius, we die with it." Irina met his gaze, her eyes steeled. "Better dead than letting those power cells survive. The Z3ans trusted us to contain this. We owe them that much." Dr. Irina Patel's lungs burned as she and Captain Mark Sullivan burst through the final archway of the collapsed tunnel network. Behind them, a thunderous roar echoed, an earthquake born of the crystalline reactor's self-destruction. The ground trembled in violent aftershocks, showering them with grit and fractured stone. Irina's visor flickered warnings, radiation levels plummeted, but structural integrity alarms blared. She could taste metal in her mouth as she staggered onto the open air, the once verdant valley now strewn with smoking fissures. Above, the sky was stained crimson by the reactor's final pulse, an aurora of raw energy that arced skyward before dissolving into the distance. Zethra's twin suns had dipped behind the jagged peaks, but another worldly glow still illuminated the valley floor. Captain Sullivan leaned against a shattered conduit, his uniform scorched, yet his eyes alive with triumph. He pulled off his helmet, and the cool alien air washed over him. "We did it," he gasped, voice rough but triumphant. "The core is offline." The chain reaction terminated. Irina dropped to one knee and retrieved her portable scanner. The device's needles,